One crucial truth that often goes unnoticed: division and strife, though not commonly classified as satanic. However, they are inherently satanic to the core. Satan is associated with sowing discord and division among people, seeking to disrupt unity and harmony. Let us delve into this topic, beginning with the very first discord sown by Satan in the Garden of Eden. We must recognize that engaging in sowing discord and breaking up relationships is doing something truly satanic. In the beginning, God created a perfect world, filled with love, unity, and harmony. However, Satan, driven by his rebellious nature, approached Adam and Eve, cunningly sowing seeds of doubt, rebellion, and division. He tempted them to question God's goodness, planting the seeds of discord between them and their Creator. This initial act of division and strife was the first glimpse of Satan's destructive agenda to disrupt the perfect order established by God. Remember what Satan comes to do. John 10:10. "The thief cometh not, but for to steal, and to kill, and to destroy." While division and strife may not immediately be associated with satanic influences, their effects align perfectly with Satan's schemes. When we engage in sowing discord, breaking relationships, and causing division, we are, in fact, participating in a satanic agenda. We become instruments of the enemy, perpetuating disunity and hindering the unity that God desires among His people. One of the ways in which Satan sows discord among believers today is through denominational differences. I have witnessed individuals belonging to specific denominations engage in aggressive arguments and display hostility towards other believers simply because they do not share the same denomination. It is important to understand that our salvation does not depend on our denomination or church affiliation. Only Jesus Christ has the power to save. Furthermore, we must recognize that in heaven, there will be people from various denominations and different theological perspectives. The essential matter is our faith in the cross of Jesus Christ, as stated in 1 John 5:12. "He that hath the Son hath life, and he that hath not the Son of God hath not life." Sadly, there are individuals who place more faith in their denomination than in the Son of God. However, the Bible is clear that our faith in Jesus is what brings us life. It is crucial to remember that in heaven, there will be no specific sections for different denominations. I recall a sermon where it was said, "There will be people who arrive in heaven and ask the first angel they see, 'Where's the Baptist section?' Similarly, those from the Pentecostal section may ask the angel where the Pentecostal section is, and so on for various denominations. However, it is important to understand that in heaven, there will not be specific sections designated for denominations. Christ has one united body, and if we are destined to spend eternity together, we should begin to love one another today, here on earth. We must not allow Satan to sow discord among us, based on denominational differences. Instead of being hostile towards one another, let us choose to love one another. Furthermore, Satan attacks marriages and relationships. He will never cease in his relentless assault on these sacred bonds. It is crucial to acknowledge that there are individuals who perpetuate the same destructive actions. They serve as nothing more than messengers of the devil. Satan aimed to destroy the relationship between God and Adam, an act that embodies pure evil. Even today, there are people who actively seek to dismantle relationships, and that is an undeniable display of evil. These individuals engage in destructive behavior, pitting husbands against wives, turning children against their parents, and causing division among friends. Such actions are undeniably evil, bordering on what can be described as satanic acts. This echoes the very agenda Satan pursued in the garden. This is something we must never do: attempt to destroy someone's marriage or relationships. I'm not referring to the ungodly relationships prevalent in the world, where people engage in fornication and use it as an excuse. I am specifically addressing marriages and relationships that are holy in the eyes of God. For instance, consider the parent-child relationship or friendships. There are individuals who derive pleasure from sowing discord and turning one person against another. If you find yourself engaging in such behavior, it is crucial that you change your ways, for you are treading down a treacherous path. During my years in the ministry, I have counseled families and witnessed individuals engaging in the destructive act of sowing discord and breaking up relationships. When I see people involved in such actions, I ponder the depth of their understanding of the evil they are committing. I am amazed by their lack of realization that God will hold them accountable for their sins. Being in the ministry for many years exposes one to various situations. I've witnessed mothers sowing discord between fathers, their ex-husbands, and their own children. I've seen divorcees where, instead of seeking resolution for the sake of the children, individuals weaponize their children to inflict pain upon their former partners. They use their children as ammunition. That is evil. It is essential to remember that children need both their parents, their mother and their father. We must refuse to be individuals who destroy relationships, for such actions are undeniably evil. Throughout my years in the ministry, I have observed people interfering in the marriages of others, deliberately sowing discord. I've witnessed parents meddling in their children's relationships, with both the parents and child joining forces against the spouse, ganging up against the spouse. A marriage is not between a husband and wife and their respective parents. No, a marriage is solely between a husband and wife. It is crucial not to involve your parents in order to team up against your spouse. Make a conscious decision not to become a troublesome mother-in-law or father-in-law. Instead, be a source of blessing to your son and daughter-in-law. Reject the negative stereotype of being an antagonist parent-in-law. It is evident that Satan harbors deep animosity towards marriages and healthy relationships. By destroying people's marriages or relationships, you align yourself with the devil and carry out his works. Satan initiated this destructive pattern, and you are following in his footsteps. Some individuals purposely seek to dismantle the relationships of others. If you eagerly anticipate the downfall of a marriage, if you actively attempt to destroy marriages, or if you allow yourself to be used by the devil to sow discord, be aware that you are involved in something evil that can be attributed to Satan. A woman entered into a joyous marriage, surrounded by happiness and support from her loved ones. Her best friend rejoiced alongside her, witnessing the love within their family. The woman was fortunate to have a wealthy and Christian husband. They built a life together and welcomed 2 children into their lives over a span of 5 years. The best friend would visit and admire the love expressed by the husband towards her dear friend, the wife. However, the best friend had faced disappointments in her own relationships, experiencing 4 failed attempts within 5 years. Regrettably, she made the decision to destroy her friend's marriage. To summarize the story, this best friend devised a plan and falsely accused the husband of infidelity, hoping to sow doubt within the wife's heart. Despite initial disbelief, the best friend continued her manipulative actions to create division between the couple. Her efforts succeeded, as the wife eventually left her husband. To the wife's dismay, a year later, she discovered that her friend had married her ex-husband. This narrative may resemble a fiction movie plot, but it is a real-life occurrence. People are actively engaging in the act of snatching other people's spouses and destroying marriages. Such actions are undeniably satanic, inspired by the spirit of the devil. It is crucial that we distance ourselves from such behavior and never allow ourselves to become like those who perpetrate such destructive acts. You see men who pursue married women, but that is an act of evil. If a woman is married, it is essential to leave her alone. You have no business pursuing a married woman, as it is inherently wrong. Similarly, you see women who chase after married men, and that too is an act of evil. If a man is married, it is imperative to leave him alone. Some people go out of their way to become a secret lover, hoping that one day the married man will abandon his family for them. But pursuing a married man is morally wrong. How can one expect God to bless their own marriage when it was built upon the foundation of stealing someone from their spouse? God does not bless sinful actions. Is that the kind of foundation anyone should desire for their marriage? It is not wise to plan and execute the breakup of a marriage, only to walk down the aisle with the person you stole from someone else. The truth is, if someone left their spouse for you, there is a significant chance they will do the same to you in the future. There is no good that can come from chasing after a married person. It doesn't matter if they spoke to you first. If they are married, leave them alone. Not only marriages, but in churches there are those who enjoy sowing discord. They like drama. They enjoy turning one child of God against another. God hates this act of sowing discord. Proverbs 6:16 through to 19. These 6 things doth the Lord hate. Yea, 7 are an abomination unto him: a proud look, a lying tongue, and hands that shed innocent blood, and heart that deviseth wicked imaginations, feet that be swift in running to mischief, a false witness that speaketh lies, and he that soweth discord among brethren. The person who sows discord employs tactics such as gossip, lies, unfounded accusations, negative criticism, and backbiting to achieve their goal. It is important to refrain from sowing discord and instead mind your own business. Practicing the art of minding your own business means that when we come across gossip or rumors, especially ones we cannot verify, we should not spread them or engage in idle talk about others. If we are unsure of the truthfulness of information, it is best not to share it. We should avoid spreading lies within the church community and refrain from meddling in the personal affairs of others. Being a busybody involves unnecessarily involving ourselves in the lives of others. And this type of behavior is not exclusive to our current generation. It has been present for centuries, even 2,000 years ago. Instead, let us focus on cultivating a spirit of love, understanding, and respect within the church. Our interactions with others should be characterized by genuine care and concern, rather than a desire to interfere or spread discord. By practicing discretion, refraining from spreading rumors, and respecting the privacy of others, we contribute to a healthy and harmonious church community. 1 Timothy 5:13. And withal they learn to be idle, wandering about from house to house, and not only idle, but tattlers also, and busybodies, speaking things which they ought not. Breaking up relationships is evil, and it is something we should not be involved in. Hebrews 12:14. Follow peace with all men, and holiness, without which no man shall see the Lord.
Genesis chapter 3, verses 1 through 4. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field which the Lord God had made. And he said unto the woman, Yea, hath God said, Ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden? And the woman said unto the serpent, We may eat the fruit of the trees of the garden, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, God hath said, Ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. And the serpent said unto the woman, Ye shall not surely die. Perhaps one of the most asked and most debated topics among theologians and seekers of truth is the appearance of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. The biblical account of Adam and Eve's encounter with this cunning creature raises numerous questions that have fascinated and perplexed minds for centuries. What did the serpent actually look like? Was it a physical serpent, or did it represent something else entirely? The very mention of the serpent evokes curiosity and invites contemplation into its role and significance in the biblical narrative. As we delve into this intriguing subject, we are confronted with a myriad of inquiries. Was the serpent an earthly creature, or does it possess a deeper spiritual meaning? What is the relationship between the serpent and the devil? Did the serpent truly possess the ability to speak, or was it a metaphorical portrayal of persuasive deception? These questions challenge us to explore the theological dimensions of this enigmatic creature, seeking a deeper understanding of its purpose within the broader narrative of God's plan for humanity. With this sermon, we will look at different interpretations as to the identity of the serpent, and we will leave you to come to your own conclusion as to the appearance of the serpent. Interpretation 1. Nahash, the Shine One. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. The Hebrew word Nahash indeed carries multiple layers of meaning, and when applied to the character in Genesis chapter 3, this complexity can lead to various interpretations. Meaning 1. The literal serpent. The basic and direct interpretation of Nahash is a serpent or snake. This interpretation fits the physical description and behavior in the narrative. It crawls, speaks, and tempts. The Bible doesn't explicitly state whether the serpent could stand or walk prior to its curse, but it seems plausible that it could have moved on 4 legs like other reptiles. This interpretation seems to align best with Genesis chapter 3 verse 14, which describes the curse imposed on the serpent. If the serpent already slithered, the curse and its comparison to legged creatures in Genesis chapter 3 verse 14 would seem redundant. Therefore, it's reasonable to interpret from Genesis chapter 3 verse 14 that the serpent originally possessed some form of legs. Meaning number 2 of the Hebrew word Nahash, the shining one. In understanding the role and nature of Nahash in the Genesis narrative, the interpretation of it as the shining one carries a deep meaning. This reading, based on the root letters that can mean to shine or relate to bronze or brass, opens up new layers of meaning that give the serpent an angelic or divine dimension. This perspective offers a striking contrast to the commonplace depiction of the serpent as a mere snake. In this context, the serpent is not a humble, crawling creature, but a radiant, impressive entity, potentially a supernatural presence linked with divine wisdom, albeit associated with a deceptive light. Such an interpretation places the Nahash as a pivotal force in the narrative, a striking figure whose impact on the plot and its characters is as profound as it is cataclysmic. These interpretations take on a richer hue when read in conjunction with other biblical texts. In Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 13 through 15, for instance, there is a description of a magnificent, perfect being present in the Garden of Eden. This figure, decked with precious stones and created as a cherub, is described as blameless until iniquity was found in it. Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 13 through 15. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, topaz, and the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, and the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, and the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and of thy pipes was prepared in thee in the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created, till iniquity was found in thee. There is no doubt that this is a beautiful creature, as per the description given in the book of Ezekiel. If God mentions that this creature was in the garden, it logically follows that it might be the Nahash, the shining one, mentioned in Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Many scholars have long debated the identity of this figure in Ezekiel. Some suggest it's a reference to the historical king of Tyre, while others contend it represents a broader figure, often identified as Satan or Lucifer. An earthly king wouldn't realistically be able to claim that they were in Eden, serve as the anointed cherub who covers, or reside on the holy mountain of God. Thus, many scholars who study the Bible propose that Ezekiel chapter 28 verses 11 through 19 serves as a dual prophecy, drawing parallels between the arrogance of the king of Tyre and the vanity and pride exhibited by Satan. The passage in Ezekiel paints a picture of a figure who was in Eden, was adorned with jewels, walked among the fiery stones, was blameless from creation until iniquity was found within, and was cast down as a profane thing. Comparing this passage with the interpretation of the Nahash as the shining one, there could be a correlation between the two entities. Both are described as radiant or shining. Both are associated with wisdom, albeit deceptive or corrupted, and both are present in the garden, playing roles in the disruption of paradise. This link provides a fascinating cross-textual perspective that adds depth to our understanding of these characters. It hints at a more profound, more complicated entity than a simple serpent. The Shining One, as per this interpretation, then represents a luminous, angelic figure who is somehow twisted into becoming a source of deception and sin. Proponents of the Shining One interpretation argue that the one textual evidence. This interpretation is based on the Hebrew root letters of Nachash, which can indeed mean to shine or be related to bronze or brass. This gives the interpretation a linguistic basis. 2. Cross-textual analysis. Linking the Shining One with the figure in Ezekiel 28 adds a rich cross-textual dimension to the interpretation. The similarities between the two figures provide a broader narrative arc that spans multiple books of the Bible. 3. Alignment with later traditions. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Arguments against the Shining One interpretation goes as follows. 1. Literal reading. The simplest reading of Nachash is as a literal serpent. The Shining One interpretation, while linguistically possible, might be seen as overcomplicating the narrative. 2. Varied interpretations of Ezekiel chapter 28. The figure in Ezekiel 28 is often interpreted as a lament for the historical king of Tyre or as a metaphorical figure representing human pride and arrogance, rather than a literal fallen angel or divine being. Overall, while the Shining One interpretation offers a rich, nuanced reading of the Genesis narrative, Interpretation 2, a standard serpent. Interpreting Nachash in the most literal sense, it signifies an actual serpent or snake. This creature is depicted as crafty and deceitful, playing a crucial role in the fall of Adam and Eve. Here, the serpent symbolizes cunning and temptation, leading the first humans astray from God's command. A noteworthy aspect of the Genesis narrative is that it seems to suggest the serpent had a form that was more similar to other animals before being cursed. The Bible does not directly indicate whether the serpent stood upright or walked before the curse. Yet it is feasible that the creature moved about on 4 legs, akin to other reptiles. This notion aligns well with the phrasing of Genesis chapter 3, verse 14, where God condemns the serpent. The text states, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals. You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life." This curse suggests a transformation. If the serpent already slithered on its belly, the curse would be redundant. Instead, the serpent's comparison to other creatures with legs suggests a transformation from a form with legs to one without. This interpretation, while literal, does not portray the serpent as a supernatural entity in its own right. Instead, it implies that Satan somehow took control or entered the body of the serpent to manipulate Adam and Eve. Therefore, the figure behind the serpent is Satan himself. The serpent served merely as the tool or vessel used by the devil to carry out his plan. This interpretation concludes that the tempter was the devil, using the form of a serpent as a disguise. The Bible does contain instances of spirit beings using animals or taking their form. A notable example is found in the story of Balaam in Numbers chapter 22, verses 21 through 35. In this narrative, Balaam's donkey is given the ability to speak, to rebuke Balaam when he doesn't see the angel of the Lord blocking their path. This incident illustrates a situation where a divine entity directly interferes with the natural abilities of an animal. While not identical, it is a somewhat parallel situation and offers a biblical precedent for interpreting the serpent in Genesis chapter 3 as a tool of a spiritual being, in this case, Satan. Proponents of this interpretation argue that 1. Textual simplicity. This interpretation doesn't require reading between the lines or inferring deeper meanings. The text straightforwardly depicts the serpent as a real animal that was used as a tool by Satan. 2. Consistent with other biblical themes. The Bible often depicts Satan as a deceptive figure who leads people into sin. This interpretation aligns with those themes. 3. Precedent for supernatural interference. The interpretation draws on other biblical examples, like the story of Balaam's donkey, which showcase supernatural beings influencing animals. Those who argue against this literal interpretation state, 1. Lack of direct evidence. The Bible doesn't explicitly state that Satan entered the serpent. This part of the interpretation is inferred and not directly supported by the text. 2. Doesn't fully address serpent's punishment. If Satan merely used the serpent, it could be argued that the punishment of the serpent to crawl on its belly is harsh and unwarranted. The interpretation doesn't fully resolve this moral question. Each interpretation brings its strengths and weaknesses. There are many more interpretations regarding the serpent in the garden. Today we have only outlined. Out of the 2 interpretations outlined, which one do you prescribe to?